Hey everyone, today we have Christie and she's a systems integration manager. She helps businesses grow by establishing these businesses through cloud integration, automation and systems design. Um, Welcome to Talk with Onyinye. I'm your host, Onyinye, and over here we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, authors, creators, and so much more. So, to stay ahead of all of our upcoming interviews, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. So, Christy is here today to present or to tell us about how you can streamline your business, automate your business operations in order to achieve optimal profitability. So thank you so much for being here with us, Christy.
You're so welcome, and thank you for hosting me on Yunye.
Yeah, I was so scared you're not going to make it today.
Oh no, oh no, no, my word is my bond. If I agree, then I'll be there.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, so tell me about yourself and your work as a systems integration manager.
Awesome. So, yeah, my work as a systems integration manager is never the same, and that's because every business is completely unique. And I think if you've got a profitable business, it's because you're solving a problem that somebody hasn't solved before. So oftentimes we have to apply what we know to new contexts, and try and solve businesses of the future. So it is a very futuristic space to be in, and it can be quite overwhelming from time to time, because you constantly, just, I suppose, shooting your arrow into the darkness and hoping it hits the target.
Yeah,
But what's great is that we've got so much experience, that we have a good idea of the direction of the arrow and more or less what's worked for other people. And from that, we're often able to actually help navigate the tricky landscape of systems for business owners who are not systems experts. They're experts in the field that they work in, but when it comes to technology, they're not quite sure what the potentials are. And they come to us to essentially help them navigate that scary landscape of the future. And we sort of go along the journey with them. Yeah,
yeah.
so that's sort of the world I work in.
Yeah. So, from your experience, why do you think businesses need to automate their systems?
That's a great question, and it's a very important one to start off this kind of process, because unless you've got a very good why and a very good reason, it's probably not the right time to explore
Hmm.
adding new systems and technology, for a number of reasons. So I would say to a business owner that's coming to me to say, we just want some cool stuff, everybody's using chat gpt, we just want to make sure we're ahead of the times. And I will say that's probably not the strongest why, and it's not good enough to actually explore a future system. I think the whys that really count and mean a lot in our industry is when there is a risk of keeping the system the way that it is currently. I don't know if you've said, don't reinvent what isn't broken. Um, so usually people come to us when their system is failing them, or, for example, we've had a client who the poor finance team are spending 5 to 6 days finalizing their reporting for funders. And the data that they're using is so polluted and inaccurate that oftentimes they're just having to, at the end of the quarter, to say, this is what we kind of said we would do, this is kind of what it looks like. It's just not accurate enough, and it's not good enough for their business model. So they needed to, the pain and the why for introducing a new system was to increase the data accuracy that they had around their project management and profitability as a whole. So very strong why, very connected to the operations and the success of the business, and the system is now monitoring that. It's forcing people to actually apply their minds and input the data where it should be, so that the output at the end of the day is quality information that people can use and make decisions with. If things are on spreadsheets and in people's emails, and somebody's got an attachment there, or somebody printed out a quote here, and it's all over the show, it's very difficult for the business owner to get a sense of where are we at with the business. What is our operations looking like? Is there any backlogs in a certain part of this, of our process, and how can we improve it? If you're using disparate tools that aren't connected, or processes that aren't well governed, and enforced, then you're just losing visibility on the performance of the business as a whole. You can't actually get a sense of where am I at in my business? How profitable am I? How far are we with this particular project? How much money are we making or losing, etc. So I think a why is, it must be a real pain in the business currently, and that usually motivates the reason for a change into a new system. Yeah.
So, what is the journey like when people are trying to work with you? What's the process like? Getting in touch with you and how you actually help them.
Amazing. Thanks, Onyinye. Yes, this is very much a journey. So a system is never complete, just like an artist says that their work is never finished. Um, it's similar to a system. The system's complexity and intelligence grows over time. So the way that you did business in the first 2 years is most likely going to change significantly by year 5 or 6, and even more so by the time you're 10, 15 years old. And because of the nature of business and that it grows and evolves, so do your systems. If you were running your accounts on an Excel spreadsheet, and managing your day to day manually, that might have been okay in the first 6 to 8 months of the business. But as soon as you hit a certain threshold, that's just not okay. You need to have a proper accounting system. You need to be registering, your monthly payments to your regulators, and all of the compliance information you need to send through. So as a business grows and evolves, so these different pressures start to inform what kind of systems will be necessary. And that might get more and more advanced the older the business gets and the more revenue it generates. So the journey that we take on with the client is very much, as I said, future focused. So the system we implement today is small enough and light enough to handle the business operations as it is today, but can also scale with the business in 5 to 6 years' time. So you don't have to completely migrate away from an existing process. You've got something that's a good fit for a reasonable period of time. So when you come to speak to us, we take the big picture in mind. We look at the current pain points, we look at the future pain points, and we kind of build something around that, for the business owner, and we break it up in phases. So phase one, maybe the pain point is, connecting to a e-commerce platform. That's really important. You want to start selling online. And that's what we do first. We implement the e-commerce integration to your inventory module. Tick, that's phase one. 6 years down the line, that inventory system is still rolling. The e-commerce is successfully running, but now stage 6 has come into place, and we want to put advanced reporting onto the inventory module, and we want to see which products are selling fastest, which of our customers are the best customers that are buying on a frequent basis. How do we plug in, certain marketing efforts? Which marketing efforts have been successful? Did our newsletter really bring in a lot of revenue? Was it actually that amazing interview that we had with Onyinye that brought in 50 new signups? You know, that's the kind of thing that we look at. So at stage one of the business, we might not necessarily look at all of the scope of tools that might be useful for the business. We'll look at what the pain point is currently that we need to solve, and then phase two, phase three, phase four, we'll start adding in additional tools and support based on what the needs are for the business. You're on mute.
So I think you also went forward to answer another part of the question I wanted to ask, right? But I mean, you just talked about your journey also working with physical businesses. So for people who are coaches and who are actually render services, what's it like? Do you also work with people like that?
Yeah, so the service industry is probably our big
How
bread and
how,
butter.
how it,
So
yeah, how is
yeah.
their automation process? You know, how important is it for them, and how is it supposed to?
So for the service industry specifically, I would say that process is incredibly important because it's all about customer relationship, right? So for services, you need to be able to define how do I convert a new customer to a happy customer, and how do I do that over and 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 over again. So it doesn't rely on a really amazing employee that's just good at customer support, but you've actually systemized the way that you do business and the way that you do your services. So the important part of a service orientated business is to be able to define that process enough so that anybody that is in that role of customer service can fulfill an excellent touch point for the customer at the various stages of their journey with you. So here at Outsource CFO, we've defined that for each and every one of the clients that choose a certain package with us. We have a clear divided process for each one of our packages. We know exactly what deliverables we need to issue to the client, and they expect that from us. Our team know how to execute on it. They know how much time they have budgeted to it, so that they don't spend 50 hours on a task that we've only charged 2 hours for. Um, so we've really broken down each and every aspect of our service offering into a clear process, and the system itself supports and guides that process, um, all the way from signing up with a new deal to a project being created in our project management tool, and at the end of the day to reporting. So that's how we've implemented it internally, and we do the same for our clients in the various different sectors, from travel to manufacturing to all sorts of industries. We really do define that process.
Okay, so what's one tool do you think physical businesses really need, in their whole bid to try to get things automated?
Hmm. That's a great question. Like, where do you start? And we've got something called, because we are a finance firm, first and foremost, our backbone is finance. And we really do believe that finance, the data accuracy that you have in your financial um, module is absolutely critical. So the first step is getting the data into a stable accounting system. That is, your bank is connected. You've got regular monthly bank account statements pulling into your accounting system. All of your receipts and your expenses are being pushed into the system as well. All of your invoices accurately generated on the system. So you've got a very good picture of the business from a finance perspective. That is number one. And we call this the financial hierarchy of needs. So
Mm,
I don't know if you've heard the
yeah.
hierarchy of needs before.
Maslow, yeah.
Yeah, so we've actually coined a financial hierarchy of needs, which is a pyramid for every business, which basically says what is important for you to focus at which stage. So, right
Hmm.
at the bottom is financial accuracy, and that is the very first step. The next step is compliance, looking at how to ensure that you are giving the regulator what they are due every single month and every single financial year. Because if that's not in place, the risk of that for the business is so significant that you could end up being in a very tricky place with your regulator.
Yeah.
South African Revenue Service, I'm not sure where your listeners are based, but having that in place and a peace of mind and comfort around how to manage that on a monthly and annual basis.
Yeah, and it
Um,
can get so overwhelming trying to monitor all of this and that and still stay right on board.
So that's why I said like you need to be very sensitive about where you're at in your business, because there is absolutely no point in paying, software fees for this fancy software that you're getting amazing analytics on your business, or you're able to do these cool things, but you're not able to pay your tax return. Honestly, it's not going to be beneficial for your business to focus on automation unless you have your financial software in place and you've got a good rhythm around maintaining it, keeping it accurate, and of course, updating your compliance on a regular basis. Only then do you come to me and you say, okay, Christy, we need automation. Okay. And then we say, right, let's have a look and see. Do you need better customer relationships? Do you have a big sales force that you're needing to monitor? Maybe 6 or 7 agents that are on the road visiting your customers. You want to see how profitable that is. Then we can look at a CRM. You can say, okay, Christy, we've got a huge inventory base. We want to add another, 100 SKUs that we want to import from China. And, how do we go about monitoring the profitability of that? Then I said, great. Right. What's your accounting system? Number one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work with you if you've got your accounting system on a spreadsheet, as an example, because there's no point in us putting a nice big fancy inventory system or a nice e-commerce system on, in place if you haven't got the basics there.
Yeah.
So I think that's just something to keep in mind, and really to just prioritize as a business owner, because it can get very overwhelming if you don't have the basics in place. And you need to be doing ABCs year after year until you're profitable, and you actually got some extra that you can invest in implementing a nice, robust system that can support your business and help it grow. Because, as I said, if you put the system in place before you've got the ABCs, it's just going to fall flat, and you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah. So a lot of businesses have or are at a different level of growth. Yeah. So how do you get to work with, different people at their different stages with their different needs, of course?
For sure. So I think, there are incredible incubators for your small businesses or startups. And I would say, if you are listening in and you're a small business or you startup, or you're just, running your side hustle, well done. Firstly, huge step, and keep it up. But I
Yeah.
would really suggest booking yourself into an incubator and getting this knowledge in a very condensed format, which is at your level. So, at an incubator, they're going to touch on all of the requirements for a startup level kind of business, and you're going to get, a bank for buck. It's not going to be very
Yeah.
expensive. Maybe your government even pays for some of it. And you get exposure to all of the appropriate tools and things that are useful for you at that stage of your business. If you have been operating for 3 to 4 years and your cash flow is starting to look a little bit more in the green, maybe you've hit your break even point and you're starting to make a profit, now you're in a position to start looking at how do I invest in my systems so that I can make my money quicker, faster, and more efficiently. At that point, you can come and speak to us, and we'll do something called a systems gap analysis, and we can put together a system that'll help support you do what you do. And listen to me, I'm not saying you need to be a 10 people staff. I don't say you need to have, millions of dollars of revenue. That's not what I'm saying here. We've worked with entrepreneurs that are one man business, but they're pulling huge amounts of revenue, and all they're saying is, I can't do it all, I need a system to actually replicate me in 3 or 4 different areas. Fantastic, come and talk to us, we love those people. They've been running their business on their own for 4 years and they're profitable. They're doing a great job. And maybe they want to employ a new person, or maybe they are bringing in a new funder. And yeah, so there's probably decisions in the business that might lead them to needing to kind of regulate, formalize, and get some kind of process in place. Um, yeah, so we work with people that are right at the sort of decision making stage where they're needing to invest in the way that they do business, and they're needing to grow in that in a more efficient way. Um, and we work with sort of small to medium sized businesses, and then very big businesses that have been established for maybe 10 to 15 years as well. And we recommend what best softwares would work for them based on their needs.
Okay. So, what's one advice would you give to business people who are, because most times, as from what you said, you struggle, you're doing your businesses, you're doing everything well, but then at some point you realize that you really need to replicate this process. So, but then it takes a lot of guts to want this. So, what's one advice would you give to people or entrepreneurs who are struggling as to find a solution to make things a lot easier for them and still um, profit from their business processes?
Hmm. So I think, start with what you have. I say that to everybody. If you're making use of a good solid tool like Google Suite, or you've got a good accounting system, usually those tools have got quite a lot of functionality built into them already. So a basic example is, if you've got a whole bunch of clients that you're servicing and you've got lots of different documents and correspondence around them, create a shared drive inside of Google Drive, for example, with all of your client folders. Structure the data around your business a little bit better, so when a client signs a new agreement, it goes into my client folder and it doesn't sit in my inbox somewhere. So I think for somebody that's starting out in this process, use what you have and start to improve the way that you do repetitive tasks. Because if everything is a mess, by the time you come and you're ready to talk about systems, it's going to take so long to unravel and get to a place where you can have a successful system mimicking your process if you don't even have one to start with. So start thinking about process every time you do a repeated task, and start implementing it with the tools you have. So even if it's as simple as creating a centralized place for all of your data to live, like a Google Drive that's categorized into folders, start there and start being diligent about ensuring that you and all of your team members add all of the relevant information pertaining to the client into that folder. Make sure that it's structured correctly. Have the same folder structure for every client so that one person doesn't call a folder bananas and the next person unicorns. Create a sense of standardization in the business with the tools you have already. If you have a sales process, write it down. Let people understand how you go from A to Z with a client every single day on a piece of paper. You can even do a drawing on, on a whiteboard to start that process and understand it and unpack it and discuss it. Because it just means that by the time you come to speak to me, you already have a good idea of how it is you do what you do. Because if you don't even know how is a service provider going to help uncover that? So that would be my advice: is start with what you have, build in your SOPs around the existing tools you have, and get clear around the processes that matter to your business, so that when it comes to implementing a system, you can already communicate that clearly to an integration specialist like myself.
So, how do people get a hold of your company? Do they just go to the website? I mean, it's here, it's right there on the screen. But is there something else they should look out for when they try to contact you, apart from what you just listed out, like all of these things that they really need to have prepared before
Yes.
coming on?
Yes, so please do go and find us on ocfo.com/automation, and you can hit up a quick contact us form that comes straight to my inbox. So you're welcome to reach out to us. But if you'd like to just keep track of what we do and the newsletters and things that we talk about systems all the time. Please sign up to our newsletter, like us on LinkedIn, and you're also welcome to add us on YouTube. We do release videos every now and then on automation and what we do here in this department. And you might learn something about finance too, because as I said, we are a finance firm as our backbone. And I can promise you, systems and finance are forever married together. So if you get good understanding around your finance function and getting the ABCs right, I can promise you it's going to stand you in good stead for when you deploy your first system, or even improve on an existing one.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really loved everything you said. I mean, it's not just for people who already have everything figured out. People who don't have things figured out yet can start now to prepare themselves, because it's not just thinking about the noun, right? But then you want to think about how do you want to. I think automation is like one of the first steps to like scaling your business, like in the long run. But before you get to that point where you want to scale, you want to like start now to get ready so that things become easier for everyone. So thank you so much for being here with us, giving us your, giving us everything you just did. I mean, thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Onyinye. Keep well,
Yeah.
and yeah, I hope to chat again soon.
Yeah. All right. Now, thanks so much, everyone,
Keep
for
well.
joining us. Thank you. Bye.